See, now I've started deflecting from the answer, I really feel that I cannot answer it straightly. My name is Owen. My main interest in life is truth, peace, and where that is. How can we say what leads us on any path? You could call it the soul, whatever you like. It's a fuel propelling us on a journey, and we have no say in it, really. I didn't ask to be interested in all these things. I didn't ask to love music and the inward search. It just all happens. All these things come to you. The only attitude I can take towards it is to be a witness of everything that's happening. The heart leads you on that path. Silence. If you are looking for truth, you will find truth wherever you look for it. Whatever you are seeking, you will find. For me, it's taken the form recently of living masters. It's like in the beginning, it's like in the dawn. It's very dark, and gradually as the sun rises, you can start to see where you're going, because suddenly everything is gradually being illuminated. The more I travel along this path, the more I see that the necessity is to love and bless all, without exception. And as the old Buddhist saying is, to be free of that favoritism which keeps some close and others far. It is essentially to be a mother to the world, if you like, with everything in the world trying to pull you in the opposite direction, and our media and all the mores of this society in particular telling you to look out for number one, and as long as you're all right, Jack, then nothing else matters. But this is not the truth, and it is why we are seeing massive rises in depression and among younger and younger people, because they're not taught to serve others, and this is the essence of everything that makes a life fulfilling. All is because you are. 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 If you're lost in doubt and you've gone without, turn the mind within and say it with a tenderness, that all is because you are the reason. You need no reason. If you find yourself blaming anything else in the world, whether it's the government, your society, your family, your housemates, your whatever it is, if you find yourself blaming things, that is a sure sign that you are being trapped by inertia. Because inertia loves this kind of thing. It loves blaming something other than itself, because then you can just sit back and say, oh, helpless me, I'm just going to sit here and, how can I do anything else because I'm bound and chained by the world. But all the power is within you. You are giving that power to outside sources and letting them bind you. I feel embarrassed to say things like this, because these are things that a sage should be saying, and not just a person. People will listen to a sage, people won't listen to a person, Naiva punyam, naiva papam, naiva sukhyam, naiva dukham, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivohan, Shivohan, Shivohan. I mean, these things I really think are desperately important to speak about, especially in this day and age. The most common thing in this age is to say, oh, how can I make a difference? We can only ultimately change things by changing ourselves. We see this a million times with every militant revolution, is that all they do is they build up a new system and the people who built it up cling on to the power. It just happens again and again because the inner work is not being done. And as long as you are running away from the conflict inside of you, it will chase you everywhere. The only way we can build anything with any worth, really, is to go within and change ourselves. But it's not a popular message. Only the most select few people will hear that message and then think, I could do this, I could do that, I could give an hour to someone. It doesn't have to be money to help. The thing most people need, especially, is just time. And no one gets enough of it from any other person. We find ourselves an increasingly isolated society, planet. People are atomised from each other. No one is really giving as much as they want to receive in the world. This leaves people feeling a great sense of lack. And I have found, having very little but time to give people, I've been amazed at how effective that can be for helping people sometimes. It's just inertia keeps us held back. And this is why ultimately I feel like I do have to say things, even though I'm not some great sage sitting on a mountaintop, because it has to start at home. Change cannot begin anywhere else. Music has always been the thing that took me there, long before I discovered any kind of meditation. It was always music that pointed the way, because it's nothing other than itself, and it's barely even connected to physical matter, which therefore means it's light. And what lightens you frees you, and what makes you feel heavy binds you. Music has no weight whatsoever to it, and so it's a very pure thing. Ultimately, to me, music is the expression of the universe itself. It is joy. It is the patterns on these tiles behind us. It's the pattern on this shirt. It is only there for the beauty of it, for pure expression of the wonder and the unspeakable strangeness of being alive. Becoming more aware of that, without even trying, you become a better musician, better artist, better whatever. Because, ultimately, you've got less mind stuff in the way, weighing you down. That's being in flow, that's being with the source, and it is ever accessible. but it really only is noticeable to us when our mind is silent. That's the value of meditation, of whatever form of meditation you like. That can be anything, that can be sitting still, that can be singing, chanting, that can be walking, it can be all sorts of things. But something that stills the mind, that's what brings you there.
You're the only one who's known me. For how long? How long?
The more the mind is emptied of these thoughts of like, oh, what's my playing? Oh, I'm playing in front of people. What do they want to hear? How should I be playing this way? Oh, I'm repeating myself. The moment all these things disappear, you play a million times better than you would. Because you're spontaneity. You are music itself. You are the flow of the universe. And nothing is being blocked through you. Everything is just being allowed to pass through as it is. And that's what you hear in all the greatest forms of music in the world. Pure, spontaneous love. With no binding whatsoever. No stickiness. The path is awareness. Awareness is liberation. The more you increase awareness, the more you are aware of every component of something. The more distinctly you taste everything in the food you eat. The more you taste things in the air, whether that's salts by the water, pollution from cars, clean air. You hear the subtlety in things where there is subtlety. And you hear the lack of subtlety where there's none. If you listen to a piece of music like the Beatles, or Bach, or Sufi drumming from Morocco, or from Indian classical music, or from Irish Gaelic singing, or whatever it is, you will hear every little inflection, every multi-layered little special thing someone's put in there. You hear all of it. And the cumulative effect of that, especially if it's a recorded piece of music, is you hear the intention of what those people were saying. If it's the Beatles, for example, the psychedelic era Beatles, you hear exactly how they were trying to communicate the sheer joy and excitement of being alive in a time when suddenly, well, it was like they thought they'd invented love practically. They were so keen on that message. And you hear that in the music. You hear love as an explosion.
Om Namah Shivaya. Chidananda Rupa Shivaham Shivaham. Mohanji Baba, it's your love, Lord, it makes me finally wanna live. It breaks my heart, Lord, to hear the ceaseless cry rising from the rooftops of the world. Namah Shivaya.
The Beatles are an example of someone I've listened to my entire life. They were played to me when I was born, you know. Yet the more I hear those records, the more I discover in them. The intention behind every part of it. And this affects your taste in so many ways, because if a song has even a line of insincerity in it, it pulls you away from that song slightly. It's like with people. If you find a person who's radiating love, you are pulled to them like a magnet or a fish on a hook. You just have no choice. If there is someone who is being very insincere, you keep away from them. You can tell when a piece of music is made by someone with great awareness. If you listen to a rock band, for instance, or a band anywhere, an African drumming group, whatever it is, they gradually go up in speed as the excitement of the music continues. Or they'll change time signatures, they'll be fluid, just like a river moves. And you hear when something has love, and you hear when it doesn't. And that's beyond music, that's in every case. Suddenly artists who I may have enjoyed on a superficial level, suddenly I could look at a painting of theirs and weep because I'm seeing exactly what they put into it. Other artists who have like a good reputation and you might have been mildly interested in before, you find yourself less drawn to because you think that this is just perfunctory, they just did it. You could almost see in every brushstroke what someone's put into something. Mohanji, my guru, he puts it quite well that as you can measure your progress on any spiritual path by the number of friends you lose. People like you to stay exactly as you are because then they know where you are. Then they know where to put you in their safe, never-changing little world. But of course that's not how anything is. Nothing healthy stays the same. If water is the same, it goes stale. It starts to breed bacteria and diseases. For something to be healthy, there has to be flow and change, letting in and letting out. But people like you to remain the same, and if they find you changing, they think, oh, that person's not the same anymore. It's such a shame. But all you can do is accept that and move on. Generally, we fill up our present peace of mind, we cover it up with thoughts about the past and the future. Worries about the past, regrets about the past, worries about the future, and therefore we're never actually in the present. And all of our worries about the future could be solved if we just made plans for living in the present. This goes for everyone, not just for me. Think of a plan that is actually worth carrying out, to brighten yourself, to love more, to find a way in which you can love more, to find time to serve more, whether that's in your community, in your family, with your friends. Even if it's dedicating yourself more to your art or something, it all helps. Whatever brightens the world is worth doing. And there will come a point one day, sooner or later, whether it's in the middle of your life, on your deathbed, wherever, where you will absolutely regret every moment you spent, gripped by fear or thinking of the opinions of others and all these other kinds of things. When we come to the end of our lives, we will look upon this entire experience as being like a dream. Because imagine how that would seem to you, your entire life just passing before you, all gone as it were, but yet somehow there as an image. It would be like a film, it would be like the strangest of dreams. And what would you think? You would think, why would I waste that time taking it so seriously when I could have just said more thanks to people, given more love to people, brightened them in some way, given something of myself? That's the only valid plan for the future you can make. I'm very lucky. I've met a guru, I've met a couple of them, and they're beautiful, beautiful beings that guide you from within, and I can only hope and pray that I get to do more of their work, that I can empty myself out to such an extent that I am an instrument for them to play, that I'm a reed that they're seeking. It's like suddenly you realise how little you had been living before, and how little enthusiasm you had for life before, to improve you, to lift you up through your faults, get rid of any other plans that aren't to do with that, really. What's practical is spiritual. What is impractical is not spiritual. Science and spirituality are exactly one, and any point at which they disagree, there is a fault between the two of them. What matters is the silence within, going within. Everything outside is just a giant distraction. It's still the bread and circuses of Roman times. It is still exactly a great big arrow pointing away from the problem. Some people think it's healthy to get in touch with your anger, and they might do this by shouting in a forest or shouting at a person, worst of all, but they might or punch their pillow. That's indulgence. The most important thing is just awareness of these things. You cannot be what you perceive, because immediately there is a distance there. The viewer cannot be the subject. Some people think they're not the body, but they still think they're the mind. Some people think they're not that, but they still identify with the personality. But ultimately, none of these things are you, because you are able to perceive them. And that point within you is none of these things. Go within and find out.
How does an ordinary person, closed, has fears, how do they look within?
For an ordinary person, which is all of us, to go within, it depends on what works best for you. If you are based from your heart, and your absolute favourite way of being in the world is to love and to express, then singing and chanting is the best way for you. You may well find that if you try and sit still and focus on, or even listen to anything being told about higher truth, you'll just find your mind glazing over. And yet if you hear devotional music, you'll immediately find yourself being carried away along it. That will still your mind. If you are of a very logical temperament, then you would like to go within the body feeling and asking yourself, who am I? The question is the important thing. To keep asking yourself that focuses you in and in and in. And if you find some kind of answer coming up saying, oh, I'm in here, or I'm this or that, then go beyond that. Keep going within. You will find a space somewhere within, maybe around the heart center, it doesn't matter where. You will find a space of stillness. The mark of any progress on any spiritual activity, whatever it is stillness. If you're of a very busy temperament, then serve. You will find, by serving selflessly, you will find your mind's just dropping away by itself. There are infinite ways to reach peace, and it's whichever way you love most, whichever way works for you is the best way. If you find yourself with more stillness, then whatever you're doing is working. Earnestness, sincerity will take you there, whatever you're doing. Because if you're sincere, any wrong practice will drop off because you're always clinging to the highest. It's like the monkey's baby. The baby monkey can't climb the trees, can't do anything, but it clings with all its might to the mother. And that's the thing everything needs to exist, is consciousness. It's the fuel of the universe. The people who really want liberation don't need to worry about what path they're on or what practice they're doing, because their sincerity will take them there. Nothing will be left behind. If there's one word that's really, really perennially useful, it's acceptance. If you go through life with the idea, let alone of whether you feel it's true or not, if you experiment with the idea that everything that comes to you is a teaching to guide you to perfect liberation and perfect love, then you accept everything. Nothing can harm you anymore. Because you are in this heart space, in the mind space of accepting everything that comes to you as a precious gift, as the best teaching you can receive at that time. if you go through life with that attitude of total acceptance and total willingness to learn from whatever is happening to you, then you're already free.